Alright, welcome to Something About Tabletop. My name is Master Blah, and with me today is the enigmatic Hobo.
How you going?
And the even more enigmatic Bluey.
I'd call him more elusive at this point.
Elusive? Oh, he wasn't there for 2 episodes, but he'll definitely be back for more.
Hey man, he's around, just hanging out in the aether.
Yeah, man, he's going to be pulled in at any time. The teleporting Bluey Bloodnut. So,
Planeswalker.
Yeah. Our episode today is going to be on video gaming syndrome. Something that we've recently thought up. We'll explain it.
I wouldn't say we recently thought it up, but it's the first time we've given a name to what we would call a standard category of things that usually new players do who have come from only playing video game-based RPGs. And again, we want to kind of preface at the beginning now. We sometimes do some of these things, and what we're trying to do is highlight some behavioral things and some issues that we might have had as new players, and so that you can reflect upon yourself. So if you're stuck in this position and you want to know how to perhaps roleplay better,
exactly,
you can take what we're saying, listen to it, and then analyze how you play, and then maybe start to change your behaviors.
Yeah, so this is really how to roleplay when you've come from a video gaming background. That's what the episode.
Or maybe how let's say we should probably preference. We're not also trying to demonize people who do this, because there are some groups who just want to sit down.
We did it for years.
They don't want to care about the roleplay. Yeah, we did it for years, where you just want to kick the door down, you want to kill the dragon, you just treat it like Munchkin, loot the room, kill the dragon.
And that's a lot of fun. Not saying that kind of plays bad, but eventually you evolve as a gamer.
Yeah, sometimes some people do, some people don't, but then again, it's all about what you enjoy, so never stop doing what you enjoy. It's just when your differences can perhaps strive against the party, when you want to do that, but the rest of the party is interested in a different game, sort of thing, that sometimes compromises have to be made.
And remember, these role-playing worlds, like Dungeons & Dragons, Shadowrun, are running universes that you're a part of. You don't own it like you own a video game.
Yeah. So everything has consequences what you do in them. But if you play, like, I kick down the door, I murder 7 dragons, and then I make a cool bar, and everyone has a dance. That's cool.
Are you trying to say something about me and my previous career?
It was 3 dragons.
It was 3 dragons, and one of them was an elder worm. That's when we were min-maxing and munchkinning, but that was for shits.
That was a shits and gig campaign. That was literally a shits and gig campaign.
Yeah.
It was a 1-session, 15-hour game from 1 to 20.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not kidding, that's what we did. I power gamed them. I just threw the hardest thing I think they could handle at them. They'd kill it, and we'd go to the next thing.
Yeah, and we just moved on. Originally it was just a lot of people, but then I funneled them onto a bridge, and turns out that flame breath of a line of 30 feet does a lot of damage.
You guys are horrible people.
This is back when we had a problem with it. I mean, after that game, we really stopped doing that kind of stuff, because we got it out of our system.
We flushed all of this really stupid stuff out of our system. Because, after being a dragon-worshipping, basically mongrel of a race that wears full plate and then breathes fire, really kind of gets it out of your system.
Yeah, like, you're wearing full plate even though your character doesn't even know how to use it, only because you don't need to roll attack rolls. That's a min-maxing thing. Anyway.
Yeah.
So,
anyway, we'll cover, other Tom or Louis, please cover what we've actually got under our sort of subheadings here.
I think we'll just talk about them one by one.
Okay.
Let's just start off with first the symptoms, I guess, or what happens, really, what you do. A big part of it is, we've already done an episode on this. It was our very first episode, is metagaming. You try to use all amounts of information that you can have in a video game, such as, I've done this dungeon before in this video game. I know this information, therefore I'm going to be careful walking around this corner because I know there's a trap.
Or in the case of, I know this weapon does X damage, I see that they have X armor, X weapon, I can calculate roughly how much average damage they will do, I can then calculate how much rough damage they'll do around a group, and I know whether or not I can take them, not based upon, would my character try and kill them all, or does he think he can take them all, but I know, because I know the stats, I can kill them.
And you do that all the time in RPGs. And I mean, the RPGs are made so you can, but because, as RPGs have evolved in real life, as have the players, and they're really going towards the roleplay aspect, because really, D&D started out as a miniatures game. It started out as a miniatures game. Like, everything has before it was D&D.
Yeah, everything really started its roots out on a lot more. I believe Gary Gygax with the first 2 editions, a lot of it was not based around necessarily the storytelling, but it was based around this sort of power gaming sort of model of being in miniatures, kick the door down, be badass adventurers. Yep. But times change as do people, and it's evolved to something more.
Yeah. So, Bluey, can you think of any ways that people can stop metagaming? Well, we did the topic, so we definitely know a lot about it. Let's just cover a few parts of how you can stop it.
like I always said in the first episode, is to immerse yourself into the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you understand your part of the world and how your character is going to react, do it think like your character, not...
Yeah. Thinking like a character is actually going to help in a big way towards video gaming syndrome. Actually, that's the cure. Think like a character, not like a player.
It's very difficult for people to
so
become
hard.
this, so because they're used to seeing exactly what, but with a lot of course, RPGs, a lot of it comes mentally from the mind, and a lot of the time, finding even appropriate music to sort of set theme. When you find good music, it can really help to set immersion and describing things, but it still takes a few times and a few steps from the first start to separate what looks like just a sort of janky grid where you're fighting into actually seeing a forest and being able to envision these sorts of things.
Especially with my map writing. It's terrible.
Yeah. It's still a big leap, but you can definitely take it. You just need to try.
What I see, what segregates video games and role-playing games immersion is, video games are all about, what I see in role-playing games is about expressing yourself. Role-playing games are a bit different. Like, you can express yourself, but you got to stick to your character concept. Where in a video game, you can branch out and do what you want.
Funny enough, you're role-playing. You're like, as a kid, you're playing mummies and daddies or fucking guns, whatever you used to play. Everyone played pretend games.
Yeah.
I know I used to a lot.
And cool. Everyone did it.
I mean, this is grown-up pretend gaming. It now has rules. That's about as far as it's gone.
Yeah.
I'm playing mummies and daddies with a D20.
Yeah! Humans in household.
Humans in household. Yeah, but I feel like it's really weird because there are some people who do a lot of what I would consider to be strange roleplays. People do roleplay sometimes when they play games. They get into their characters, especially with some games where they're considered to have freedom and they sort of build these own stories. But I feel actually, I feel like a lot of some people, they come here and they get punished with these consequences, and then they start to feel that the game is very caged and very closed.
Yeah.
But I actually feel the opposite about video games, having played tabletop for so long now. I go to video games and I hate the fact that I feel so caged in my options. I feel so restricted in what I can do.
Yeah, you can do the missions that are preset out for you, and you can't do dialogue that you would normally be able to do in a game. Anyway, so our next one is a big one. Like we were saying before, it's kind of metagaming. That's power gaming. So power gaming is both min-maxing and playing to win. You don't win in RPG is the thing. And it's a lot to do with building a character that's most effective, but what if you have a concept? You gotta, generally, as you're playing, you should let your concepts drive higher than the game rules itself.
It's compromising your character and the concept of the character that you're playing in order to acquire more power, even if that's completely against the ideals of the character. And there is a juxtaposition in this where there are players who perhaps strive away and perhaps almost completely separate themselves from a roleplay perspective in the same sort of sense.
Yeah.
But so both ends of the extremes can be bad, where everything is motivated by, because you see it a lot in D&D where people, rather than simply playing their character, they get fixated on the alignments and that they play to their alignments rather than letting their play determine their alignments, and that there is a juxtaposition between that sort of gaming and also they're going completely against it. That both sides are not fantastic. You should never let yourself become caged to anything.
Like, I think, like, the big point is, like, say, the Paladin in D20. You have a Paladin, and a cool story hook is you actually becoming, not an anti-Paladin, but swaying from your god maybe to another. But you don't want to do it because you don't want to have to bother, retraining or whatever. That's not a good reason not to be a fallen paladin. If it makes story-wise why you should be a fallen paladin, then just do it. Talk to your DM, go, hey, maybe can I automatically gain class level so I'm not crap?
Yeah, I've actually had several characters who have undergone radical changes because of it followed the natural progression of the character. I had a this is more sadly towards a freeform, but I had a character who for the most part was a kind of intelligent guy, but he was sort of cowardly. And so he spent most of his life hiding behind other people. But there came to a point where the person he loved, the only person who really, I guess, treated him with affection and actually sort of reciprocated that love, was killed. And from that point on, he basically turned from this cowardly archer and became a brutal murderer and almost a genocider in his attempt to get revenge.
Yeah.
But hey, if you want to play an MMORPG and just fucking grind your balls off and get 50 experience every day for the rest of your life.
What are you, just killing boars?
Yeah, I don't know.
What is 50 experience really big in this? Jeez, man.
And D&D 5th edition it is.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah.
Because level 1's only 300 instead of like a 2,000 or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, geez, 50 experience a day then. Oh, God.
Oh God!
Actually,
yeah.
that's quite a lot because missions normally take a few days to a week.
If you
or
what are
two.
you doing?
Alright, that's got nothing to do with this.
It's got...
Anyway, what were you saying, boy? Finish your thought.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, if you just want to grind and get levels,
And just sort of statistically play the power game, I think is what he's
Yeah.
going
yeah,
towards.
that's what I'm saying.
Maybe you should look at an MMO instead. They're
Yeah.
kind of geared towards that with their
If you
PvP.
like the play on the table, it's okay.
Well, if the group's okay with that, and the whole group is, it just becomes a bit of a frustration.
Yeah.
Especially
But-
when you have role players and then maybe one person who's like that. And you shouldn't necessarily feel bad, but you have to understand why perhaps these people are frustrated, because they're trying to play a different kind of game that you are.
Yeah.
That's not to say that your type of fun is wrong. It's just not the same as what the other people find fun. And I've dealt with that
Yeah.
on tables before.
And it's also really annoying from a GM perspective when I'm DMing and someone has a character that is constantly trying to exploit the system. Every single time I describe something, they constantly ask, or there's loot, I want it all, I try to take it all, I want all of it, I want absolutely everything, I want that person's weapon, why? So I get my extra plus to hit. Hey, you there, I know that you picked up that longsword first, but my character uses longswords, I want the longsword, I don't care if you got it first, it's mine. Blah, 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 I want the best of everything. And that's a big part about power gaming, and it can cause arguments, you know? Like, why does your character want everything, you know? You can't be like, hey, your character doesn't use longswords that much, it's not your specialization, you should sell it so we all get money. But it's like, hey, I'm thinking of speccing into longswords now.
Or maybe
And-
I'm a weapons collector. Maybe I'd actually like collecting antique swords.
Yeah. I
There's
mean,
a lot of subtext.
yeah, power gaming can be its whole subject, and I guess it's okay to make an effective character, but it should never compromise roleplay, in my opinion.
I think, again, it all depends on the table, but I think if you find yourself as a power gamer on a table of role players, at least try and work that in
Yeah.
so it's a role play aspect. So maybe play a character who would be greedy, so then people at least know what they're getting into
Yeah,
when they
of
sit at a
course,
table.
yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than playing with a cleric or someone who's apparently good aligned, who then wants to loot everything, to sell everything, takes all the best stuff, because it makes him the best. Everything that has to be for an advantage for him, and refuse to let it go another way.
Yeah. Yeah, power gaming... The thing is also, there's a difference between min-maxing and power gaming. I think it's fine to make a character for your concept as effective as possible. Use all the source books you can to make your character good. It's okay. But as soon as you compromise your gameplay to become more powerful, not because your character wants to, because you do, I think that's video gaming syndrome right there.
It starts
Yep.
to really compromise the character and I guess
Yeah.
the roleplay.
Then there's, I call it Diablo syndrome.
Yeah.
Or all of the loot all of the time.
Yeah.
I'd actually call it more Borderlands 2 syndrome at the or just
Oh.
Borderlands, because there's even
Action RPG syndrome. Like,
action RPG syndrome. Loot, you stab a guy, loot pours out of his body, he bleeds loot.
How much fucking inventory space does a real human body have?
not much.
You'd be amazed how many gold coins I can fit in my liver.
Because in Diablo 2 I can carry 3,000 gold and 20 bows.
Well, apparently in Skyrim, wolves have gems and gold rings in them.
That's from the hands they eat. They just go around biting people's hands off.
And just eating the gold.
They just poop gold. Yeah, I feel like with this one, it's more of a case is that rather than looking at other people and other things in the world as people and animals and creatures, all they see is walking or flying EXP and
Loot.
crates to be looted,
Like-
inventories to be sacked.
I hate people when they obsess out of character about loot as well. Like, I know that sometimes you read the book and you find a cool magic item, and I don't like the idea when someone focuses an entire character about getting that one item. I just feel it's very narrow-minded. That's just a pet peeve. It's
I
not-
usually have a list of things that I do want, especially as rogue.
Yeah.
So there are some really cool hats of disguise, but I don't pin my hopes on ever being able to get any of them. I'm just like, if I have a chance to and I have the money, I will pick it up.
Yeah.
Am I going to gun for it specifically? Probably not. That's not kind of... It's out of the way and kind of out of character. But if the situation falls in my lap my character probably would take it, depending on the deal.
I fall into this category. I tend to hoard gold and just wait out until I can get that one special thing.
There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but I think it's more like going against everything, like even the character stands for, in order to get it, just so you can have it.
I just hate it when the first thing people do when someone dies is loot the body. I at least with my characters, especially, well, like, society plays a big one. In Pathfinder Society, you don't get to keep your loot, so it becomes less important. So I guess it's a metagamey and video gamey thing there. There's no point in me picking it up. But it's just annoying when everyone goes, loot corpse, loot corpse, loot corpse. It's just like, guys, they're goblins.
For the most part,
Who cares?
Yeah.
For the most part, my character usually actually makes sure that everyone's okay, or that he tends to his own wounds before he even begins to consider looking over the bodies of the dead. Unless he saw something he particularly wanted at the beginning of the fight, and then usually he'll go over, because it's usually a weapon or something you can see on him, and he'll pick it up, and then he'll go and check himself, and that's just it.
Yeah.
Like, one of my Shadowrun characters said that if he sees someone who has a magical item, because he was a magical item and artifact collector, if he can see it on them, he'll usually go pick it up, and then make sure he's okay, and make sure his team's okay.
Yeah.
But it'll just be a quick pickup. It won't be ruffle through the mage's rucksack and shit.
Like, how horrible it would be if you're watching a movie about a fantasy epic, and they kill a bunch of orcs, and then the next 5 minutes is them sorting out loot.
Yeah, just this pile of, like, boots.
Oh, no, this is just a boot. Nah, who cares about that? It's not realistic, and it's
Throw it in
silly.
the boot pile, it's worth half a copper piece. Throw the shirt in the pile as well. And the breeches, and the pants, and all this miscellaneous. Maybe we can get something for the hair if we sell them as wigs.
Yeah, exactly.
Not-
And I've seen people do that. They try to squeeze every fucking gold out of everything. And it's just like, think about the effort. Like, would your character care that much about money? What do you think about all of this with loot? You don't GM, so...
Yeah, I don't really give it. I don't loot people.
No.
Again, you and me, we more
Yeah.
loot for things, specific things.
I see
we
a
want.
treasure chest. Yeah, I'm gonna go for that, but I don't think a body's gonna be
Most
carrying.
bandits aren't going to carry much on them.
Yeah, no, I don't see bodies as walking treasure chests.
I kind of if they're bandits, I will loot their pockets for their spare change, but I won't. That's just it, because it's just a bit of spare change so that I can afford the potions.
Cut
for
the
damage
coin
they
purse,
do.
that's
what
about
I mean.
it.
It's
Yeah,
basically,
like 3 gold pieces. Cool.
it's basically the thing. I'm just basically looking for a recuperation so I can maybe buy a potion
Like,
for the
personally,
damage I
like,
took. That's it.
I'm not sure. I guess I haven't played D20 in a while, but if I played it again, my character would probably never pick up someone's weapon to sell it. He would be like, okay, I don't really care about your pretty masterwork weapon. I don't care that it was masterwork. I'm going to ask, is anyone going to use this? Nope.
Yeah.
Leave it there. I'm not going to take it home.
It's kind of how I feel about chests as well. Like, there are so many times in some campaigns, I'm sorry for cutting you off, Luke,
that's right.
but there are so many times I've been in campaigns where they open chests and there's like, because he would roll on a miscellaneous table for like magic items and stuff like that, and there'd just be nothing in there, and it's just like, isn't anyone going to take the loot? And me and the druid were just like, no, we don't care. There's nothing in there we use. We don't care.
Yeah. What you say?
Yeah. I do tend to loot bosses though.
Oh, everyone loots bosses.
Yeah, you have to.
That's a video game.
Yeah,
thing,
it's
I think.
video game syndrome.
Because
I
the
guess-
bosses have got the good stuff.
Well, in real, like, look at movies. Guess what? Think about where they get all of their gear from. Either passed down or bosses.
Unless you die hard, then of course you just kill a couple of terrorists and then start continuously dropping and picking up their guns.
Hey, I guess in that situation, if you're playing like Shadowrun,
That's more of a desperate priority.
yeah. I mean, in Shadowrun, I've had people do it before. They've run out of ammunition, pick up a gun.
Yeah. But usually they don't keep those guns afterwards, though, because they're tracked.
yeah,
They usually just fucking throw them away.
Shadowrun, it's very hard to keep loot, and I like that. And I've had players coming in from D20, and they're like, I try to loot everything. It's just like, okay.
I am especially guilty in Shadowrun. I have an addiction of wanting to steal vehicles.
It's so difficult.
I know.
And sometimes
Again-
I've had players, that grab a whole bunch of guns, literally guns that are worth a couple hundred each. They can sell them for 100 million each, and they will spend their entire downtime resetting, reformatting, and scrubbing them just to sell them for a piddly amount of cash.
Who the fuck would do that with their time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I will admit, I don't think I have as many problems now with Shadowrun in terms of looting. I think I've definitely certainly calmed down. But there are times where if I know a contact and I know I can make an easy buck, then I most likely will just ship him off to him real quick. But like, if it's anything actually difficult and I know I can't move it, I will leave it.
Well, at the start of Shadowrun missions, because generally you give people less, I'm okay with it a little bit more. But as soon as it gets later, and the missions are like, you have 1 minute to get out of this building or you're going to die, If people are going, hey, what do they have in their bodies? I'm like, do you want to sit there for a minute? And they go, no. I'm like, you don't look at their bodies.
Yeah.
You go, okay, sure, if some dude had a plasma gun, he was shooting you. Go over and pick up his plasma gun and laser gun. Sure.
That's what I mean.
That's about all you're going to get.
That's a
Anything,
risk.
basically anything that's really apparent that was big. Like, again, like if I killed a guy who had like a Force 5 magic sword and I could see it was really magic, that's the first thing but I'd grab it and I'd be running. Like, that's it. I would literally stop for nothing else. Like, I'd probably even like hold the blade even if it was hurting me.
It's just when it gets to the point you have to think to yourself, would I want to do this?
Yeah, or like, you know, because there's a lot of ethical ramifications you actually don't think about for the most part. It's, cause you don't realize it until you deal with some NPCs, and then, especially in Shadowrun, where people call you ravens and scavengers because you pick items and things off the dead, and you don't think about their because, again, looting in video games is normal, that's usually how you make your money, but the actual ramifications of stealing from the dead...
Yeah, or like stealing ware from the dead, I hate that.
We've never done that, though. We don't really tend to do
That's
that.
brutal.
I think you have. You have.
Yeah,
you guys have done it.
I probably have. That was probably one of my older
People
characters.
have stolen ware.
You're cutting pieces.
Yeah, no, do you know what kinds of groups do that in Shadowrun? Ghouls. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's ghouls. People who sell corpses to ghouls. Corpse raiders. They're not high on the food chain.
On the society's table.
But I mean, sometimes you have to do it, but it's just really silly.
Yeah. Like,
and the amount of effort is ridiculous, but I guess at the same time it makes sense, because if your character is a money-grubbing bastard, do it.
Or if
your character is not, don't.
If your character is desperate enough, because there may be some people, like, in the campaign we're in right now for Shadowrun, I think if someone was desperate enough, and like, especially if they needed money to pay for something else, I think it would not be out of character for them to... I don't think they'd like it, but I could see potentially a character cutting some cyberware out of someone.
I think it'd be emotionally scarring for a lot of our characters.
It definitely would, but I could see our characters, especially considering we're all in a very disparate situation, that's very character specific. It's not because better hack out this guy's wired reflexes and cyber skull, because we can make a great resale on this.
Yeah, because I'm going to cut someone's spine out.
Because I got my fucking hacksaw here.
And I hate it when people are playing characters that are meant to be like rangers and stuff, and they spend most of their time going, okay, the Cavalier has a horse, that is a high strength rating, so the 5 full plates that we got from the mercenaries, we can carry them back. We're not going back to a town for a month. Oh, it's fine, the horse will be fine.
The horse won't be fine.
That's not how most people think.
Yeah.
And your character has to be a money-grubbing bastard for that to be. And a reputation will follow, because, to be honest, I don't like that kind of play. I think that's all to say about loot. I mean, there was a lot to say about it.
It was a lot, but I guess it was a lot to cover in general, about the different types of loot grubbing.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is like straight again, like what we're talking about in general is a big one, is not thinking about your character. So, you have to think like your character.
Yeah, and
it's simple.
It's your job, but it's also the DM's job to immerse you into the world.
Of course, yeah. The world has to be immersive enough.
A good DM helps, but a good DM isn't going to necessarily get you all the way. You have to put
your
in the
other
effort.
players as well. I can tell you right now, as soon as one person roleplays on a table, everyone follows. And
not necessarily as well, but they try to follow because I guess they feel
obliged.
Sometimes it's embarrassing.
They feel obliged to follow.
I guess
think about it. Like if one guy's doing silly voices, and he's having fun, like say he's playing an Irish gnome and he's being a dickhead and he's having fun and role playing, everyone's probably going to join in.
I guess it also is because you don't want to, like, after a certain amount of people start doing it, you also don't want to feel excluded from doing that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's human mind.
No, it's good. It's fun. It's great fun role playing in a group.
Oh, role playing can really. I mean, not necessarily. Some of us can't necessarily do the voices, and some of us don't necessarily do it. Sometimes it's just about how you use your tone, even.
Yeah, you got to keep your tone. Something that I like to do now is try to put across the body language that my NPCs and my PCs are using. Like,
no, I actually have gotten to the stage of feeling the same emotion as my character. I actually feel affected to what these people are saying.
Some people would say that perhaps you're feeling a bit like that, because there definitely is. I know that feeling, because that's how I am a lot of the time. But a lot of people feel that there needs to be a definite disconnect, because that can end up being really negatively impactful as well on your own psyche.
I can pull. I normally pull myself out.
So long as you can pull yourself out, and I think role playing in this sort of sense as well is a fantastic way, and I can definitely see why. I'd definitely recommend it to drama students because it's an interesting exercise in not only just like playing a role, but you have to create and adopt the role yourself.
Yeah.
And as a DM, you have to do it for so many different characters.
Yeah. Anyway, so not thinking as your character. I think instead of talking about how cool role-playing is, which I guess is fine, let's talk about what not role-playing is. Or it's not necessarily role-playing. You can role-play but not think like a character. Like I was saying so much before, are you a money-grubbing arsehole?
Yeah.
No? Why are you trying to take 3 full plates back to town, which is a month away?
Yeah.
Why? Why would you bother? You don't care. You should play as your character, think like a character. Don't go, what can I do to get myself out of this situation? Go, what would my character do? If you're playing a crazy, raging barbarian, and there is a whole bunch of people in front of you, don't go, how am I going to run away from these people? Go, how close are they? Charge? Yeah, cool, okay, I'm going to charge.
I think for barbarian in my mind is like, how am I going to kill these people?
Yeah, but they'll rage and then they don't care anymore.
No, but like, that, my goal is, I'm gonna rage, and I'm gonna kill them.
Yeah, and you got to think, like, say, obviously, if your character is a highly intelligent wizard that doesn't really have any flaws and is basically just you, which is fine if you play yourself in a fantasy world, then, yeah, sure. Yeah. You can think about how you can do best for yourself. But if you're playing a 8 to 10 intelligence character, or a low wisdom character, or a low charisma character, you've got to play that up.
It's really hard to do that sometimes, because
so hard.
It's really hard to get that connection, but once you start role-playing, it becomes easier. Yeah. I've been in several cases where there are ways where you can roleplay and it can be detrimental, where you get to but a lot of what I do, there are situations where, this is even just for NPCs, when I play a character, I like to stay really true to the character. If I'm not like enjoying the character, I will just sort of change and do what I feel, and that can be weird, and that can be kind of wrong at some times in terms of sort of breaking roleplay, but you can always just take that in an interesting direction, like perhaps your character's experiences are making him think differently. But I've been in several situations where I could have escaped from a combat which was almost surely going to kill me, or had a decent chance of killing me, but because one of my friends was downed and couldn't travel fast, I chose to refuse to leave. I stayed by their side and I fought off anyone who tried to get close.
Yeah, and that's roleplay.
I mean, my character didn't die, so I guess that's it ended well. But it's not always going to end well. But I wasn't necessarily expecting to survive.
Yeah,
I was just playing because that was the way I wanted to go out. I didn't want my character to be a coward and abandon his friends. I wanted him to be a man who would, if you're gonna die, I am happy to die along beside you. I want him to be that sort of man. One
video game syndrome trap that I've fallen into is I'm talking to someone and I say some really witty, charismatic thing. It's like, oh, you've got 2 charisma, Shadowrun. Roll a charisma check. Fuck.
You're crap, man.
I just realised. Sorry, I rolled 2 1s. Butts, dicks, butts. That's what my character actually says.
Yeah.
Instead of that witty comment, you have a nice rack or groin. What an awfully large floppy dong you have.
I hope your mum is as sweet as your pussy.
Just so, like, we got the Johnson. I bet you're great in the sack. What a nice floppy dong you have. I'm a woman. Are you?
So this one, nothing about your character probably comes up a lot. We're probably going to,
and
talk
again,
about
like you said,
more.
just like, who needs to? I don't want to have to pay money to sleep. I'll just sleep on the floor, or I'll sleep in armor because I'm paranoid about being attacked.
Yeah,
it's a lot of these small things where you give up comfort that normal people would not give up because you don't want to pay things.
That's a symptom. Not thinking about character comfort. Basically, you're
We've already covered that.
Well, we kind of have, but let's just put it out here. You are a person. You want certain things in life. And depending on your character, you're going to search them out. You're not going to want to always eat rations. Sure, it's 5 silver pieces a day, but it doesn't taste good.
Yeah.
It's bread and jerky. That's what it is.
Also, I'm pretty sure people who have been wandering for a month who are on rations, when they get offered a feast, aren't necessarily... No matter how paranoid you are that the DM is trying to drug you, after several months of eating nothing but really crappy rations, do you really want to turn down a banquet?
I just want to get some of that tavern mead.
Yep.
I mean, I'm guilty of that one because I'm just overly paranoid, but... So I usually only carry my own water supply that I can check that I make sure it's not drugged, and I don't tend to drink a lot.
Doing survival checks to search for food, like if you're eating raw, or boiling roots and eating raw mushrooms, it's not great.
No, it's not fantastic.
not going to a tavern, like you said before, is a big one that I see all the time.
Sleeping with the armor on.
Sleeping with the armor on, just so you don't have to put it on in the morning. I guess if your character's paranoid, you could do that, but if it's not, that's not.
I guess there are some of these things. I guess are like almost legitimized in the sense that I know so many people where it's just still like if you're playing in a D20 world and the DM's like you should get on this boat and go traveling and you wear heavy armor. For the most part, you don't want to get the fuck on the boat because you know there's going to be goddamn water combat. You don't want to get dragged under and die.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's because these things happen that it's also partially a DM's fault that these players have a hard time getting in because they've been hurt so badly in the past and fucked over.
Uh-huh.
But again, that doesn't necessarily excuse some things, so...
Yeah. Alrighty, this is a really annoying one. This is mainly for GMs to get pissed off at. And this is something that's intrinsically a part of video games. It's what keeps you in there. It's worrying about getting rewards for everything. This is sometimes punishing people that are actually role-playing. I know it's okay to go, hey DM, we role-played. Experience? It's usually I'll give it to you, but you shouldn't expect a reward for everything. We're here to play a game. That's what we're here for.
I said hello to my neighbour. Do I level up?
Yeah, and also...
How much experience do I get for the farmer?
Yeah, like I've had people in the past kill a bear to level up because they knew they needed 100 experience and the new bears give 100 experience.
Power gaming and metagaming, having a love child.
Yeah. This is like just trying to get rewards and forcing the rewards. And this is just a loot thing as well. Just going... Hey, I killed that guy over there. I want to kill it. Like, what did he have? He was a peasant. Nothing. Yeah.
I just realized something, because I just remembered, I think, I'm not sure if I remember this correctly, but it was the worst story I've ever heard of in terms of that, like, killing a bear. But this was like, ants are like a third armor challenge rating 1/68th or like 100th or something. Okay, I pour boiling water down the anthill. How much experience do I get for killing thousands of ants?
Oh my god.
And that's what I mean, just like... No, you don't get anything. Go screw yourself.
I didn't even remember ant swarms. Yeah, like ant swarms. Hey, an ant nest is an ant swarm. That's probably where you got it. It's not an ant itself doesn't have a challenge rating. I think it's a quarter challenge rating. Actually, an ant swarm could even be a challenge rating 1. But
you basically went around pouring like boiling liquid down every anthole he went to get more experience.
Yeah, but as a GM, do you know what you do? If you don't like that, say no. You are the master of the rules, funny enough.
Exactly.
That's what you're there for.
That's the thing, but like it doesn't stop players from trying. We both know this.
Yeah, and I really hate that when the players, all they're trying to do is trying to squeeze every single thing out of the game. But I mean, recently, what we've been doing is, it's like, we're playing and then it's like, we haven't done experience in a while, have we? Nope. Huh, I'll work it out.
Actually, for the most part, I would roleplay, and it was really weird, because we played, again, Shadowrun really recently, just starting a new campaign.
Yeah.
And he gave us all experience for roleplaying, and I was like, what? We get experience for roleplaying?
It says it in the book to do that.
Yeah, but like...
And Edge, but I prefer Karma than Edge.
But that's the thing, though,
So
like...
do I.
I'm so not used to being rewarded for roleplaying. I don't roleplay to be rewarded, so it was really weird when I'm like... Because it's only like 1 karma or 1 or 2 karma, but it was like...
It was 1. But
I was like... No, but I mean, I can sometimes be 1 or 2 karma. And I'm
yeah.
like, What? What do you... I got karma for... Oh, I wasn't roleplaying for karma, but okay.
Well, I don't want you to do that, but it helps people that are newer, that are power gamers to want to roleplay. But at the same time, I don't want you asking, going, can I have karma for roleplaying, Tom?
Yeah.
No. No, actually, no.
No, you can't. Sorry, it's just so surreal to me.
Yeah, I'll just give you karma if I think that I want to reward you, funnily enough. Like, hey, have a biscuit, doggy. But I don't want you coming to me for the biscuit. It sounds stupid.
Yeah.
Because I'm, reinforcing that action, but I just want that action to occur without me having to give you a biscuit.
Yeah, basically, he just wants you... You're trying to encourage roleplay, but you don't want people to become dependent on it and just... constantly badgering so they can get that little edge. That's when it becomes a problem.
I can't remember the name. I think it's Pablo's dog. You ring the bell every dinner time, and every time you ring the bell, he just comes to you from now on.
Yeah. Mouthwaters. It's the mouthwatering.
Yeah, that's what you're doing.
I do that to you guys.
Yeah.
I'll go, hey, everyone, put their leg up in the air, and you guys will get a karma.
Subjective training.
I'll just freaking brainwash you guys.
I just want the karma so much.
You just got your leg in the air. I'm like, what's wrong? It's like, I need karma. Alright, so...
Why is your leg in the air? Karma!
So that's worrying about getting rewards for everything. I think that's pretty much all we can really talk about there.
Yeah, well, again, it's just it's basically trying to squeeze as much reward out of any single thing you can, whether it's EXP or gold.
And that happens in video games, because video games go, hey, you want this? How about this?
It's because video games are trying to cover for a net, because it's only a program that they're trying to reward all different play styles. And the thing is, you can abuse that by playing all the different play styles.
I'll have to say, the reason that I explored everywhere in Fallout was not for the weapons and armor and stuff. I got that through doing main missions. I did it for fun.
Yeah.
So I guess, I think at least the Bethesda games, as much as they are RPGs, I was exploring for different reasons.
Yeah,
I don't know about
everyone does that. I mean, I really don't like the Skyrim and the Fallout games, and that's where we're going to get a huge outcry. But I'm a goal-focused and driven player.
Yeah.
I like to follow stories, and Fallout 3 was better because there was a more structured story for me to follow. But with things like New Vegas, I don't care, and I get really bored of wandering about. And people are like, oh, but there are really interesting stories in the vaults, but I don't find them interesting because they're just these little tidbits, these little moments, whereas I want something stronger. I want a stronger goal orientation to follow.
Yeah, I love just a linear story-driven campaign sometimes as well.
I mean, it doesn't make us bad people.
Well, the one we're doing now for Shadowrun, we are. It's a linear story-driven. It's got a story.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. It's not like we don't play like a lot of Shadowrun that's not linear, because we do a lot of that for the most part, just doing some random missions.
We don't do missions linear.
Yeah,
the story could be linear,
and that's the thing. Like,
it's a campaign arc, because Shadowrun has that. Like when you're designing a mission for Shadowrun, it's so much different from D&D, because it's not a fucking. I guess you can do dungeons sometimes, but an approach to a mission is like way more 3D than D&D.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, you can still apply that nature to D&D though, and start opening up all these different paths, but it can become a bit overwhelming for newer players, definitely.
Yep. All right, so let's talk about the social interactions and the difference between them, like what people expect when playing video games. So in a video game, a social interaction is a means to an end. People do it only for information. They think that
for things.
Yeah. So this is actually comes up now and again, and I get really annoyed by it. Every single time there is a social interaction with a character, people continuously asking for. They think they know heaps of information. I don't always put you in front of someone that knows everything. And it's really annoying when all they treat social interactions as is just a means to an end. It should be a means to an end to explore your character, not necessarily a means to an end to get information. Sure, the main reason you talk to people is for information, but sometimes you don't. And we're definitely trying to push that with our new Shadowrun campaign. What do you guys think about that? And maybe some stories, because we definitely have stories of terrible social interactions.
A lot of social interactions I find, especially with video game syndrome and a lot of the newer players, is that because they're in the systems that usually have only limited choices, there's usually no real wrong answer unless you want to have the wrong answer. So everything is very plain and laid out before you. So when they come into these games, I feel like they feel as if they can say no wrong and do no wrong with their words, and then they find out very quickly that, again, telling the king and Shaggy's wife in front of him is not the best idea, and taunting a dragon is not a best idea.
Well, think about what you'd say in front of a king, which is renowned for murdering people. Think about what you'd say.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's a disconnect because they don't treat. I think a lot of it is they don't treat them as people. They just see them as things. They as if, like I said, information dispensers or just NPCs. They're nothing more than just cardboard cutouts to some people. Is that how they view them? But sometimes they are cardboard cutouts, but you know what? They still have more dimensions, and I think, even as a DM, if you have a cardboard cutout, you still your character on that cardboard cutout might get frustrated if they start taunting him and being complete dicks.
The more that you interact with an NPC, he becomes less of a cardboard cutout, especially with me as a DM. I remember one time in a campaign, it was a long-running one, they were talking to an NPC. He was just a guy, a broker, like selling just trinkets, basically, was his whole thing. And he all of a sudden became this ex-adventurer, lost his leg, used to travel with a group of adventurers that he can't anymore because he lost his leg. He was a fighter, and basically all of his wares were his ex-adventuring stuff, and the players got really invested in him for some reason because I gave him a random background that I made up on the spot, and they actually felt for him, and they actually tried to get him with a reunion with his friends, and it made a whole separate campaign arc, and it was awesome.
You and I have also had similar things with some of my Shadowruns. I made friends with what was essentially a hunter out in Africa, And
Yeah.
he was just a guy, and then I ended up becoming best friends with him, and then spending most of the time.
He was a
basically-
nameless Deus Ex Machina. That's what he was.
And I ended up becoming friends with him. And then you also have to remember I think the most famous one you have is Booster.
Oh my, jeez. They needed a hacker for a mission. You first met Booster.
And
yeah.
we had a really bad hacker who was new to Shadowrun, so we just called Booster up all the time to do it for us.
Was that Wes? Wesley?
No, that was Jim.
Yeah, he left the campaign though. No, it wasn't Jim. You guys didn't have a hacker. That was the thing.
Yeah.
And you got Booster in for one of the missions, and you kept on needing him because you guys weren't thinking of how to solve it with what you had.
Bleep out the names.
It's fine.
It's fine. Whatever.
I will anyway. But I just felt like Ome and Chumma.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Booster's a good example. Ghost,
Oh my. Yeah, Booster
Shake?
got out of control. No, Shake was meant to be... actually, no. Yeah, sorry. The High Rollers, a campaign arc that I had, was created out of a random mission where they talked way too much with the person that was hiring them, and I basically just made them a thing.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, okay, I've already put too much effort into this.
Yeah, the real main one for me was when I ended up becoming kind of friends with the guy who I was meant to sort of grill for information, Ghost.
Yeah,
I became,
Ghost was another one.
Yeah, I ended up becoming kind of... I mean, in an alternative version of that campaign, some of your players just simply killed Ghost.
Sniped him, yeah.
Yeah, but I ended up actually talking with him, sort of sympathizing with him, and because he was a pacifist, he was a pretty cool guy, so I ended up becoming friends with him. Like, he was a loose contact, but I still talked with him.
What I want to talk about is kind of...
But yeah, again, most players don't see that.
A bit of the opposite of what you were saying earlier about how players think they can go, I shagged the king's wife and shit, is the opposite, where people are fucking terrified of talking. Yeah. They're not used to it.
I don't think that's video gaming syndrome, but that is a big problem with roleplay.
No,
Yeah.
but you got to realize how flexible NPCs can be. There are different approaches. You can... There's intimidate, negotiate, and other correct charismatic skills there for a reason. So think about how you're going to go about things.
I guess not looking at them in a linear way, because there's lots of like bribing them, smooching them, trying to find details to push them into a situation.
I do have something to add with that. With what you said, it just made me consider that if you think about how RPGs are set up in video games, there are a limited amount of options, so that perhaps if you were to look out, if you were to be a new player and you would look at, so you have your diplomacy, your con, your intimidation, perhaps you just simply see them as the options that instead. So instead of thinking outside, you simply think that those are just the three different options.
I know Deus Ex is a bit like that, where you had your three different options.
And that maybe they take that sort of attitude when they come in here, and they feel caged to those options, and they don't seem to understand, because that would explain a lot.
Yeah, of course. That's exactly what it is. It's thinking that you only have, like, when you have con, negotiate, bluff, bluff, diplomacy, intimidate. Let's just keep with the D&D ones. You think that's your three ways to do it.
Yeah.
No, think of a human being, how you're going to get information out of them. Talk to them, smooch up to them, or be violent and try to stab them. Whatever, who
Or
cares?
mentally intimidate
If
them. There's
they're-
so many different ways.
Heaps of ways.
If they're an orc fighter, maybe not try to intimidate them because they're not going to be easily shaken.
They're going to pull out their sword and try to stab you.
maybe try and con them, smooch up to them. I mean,
I'd say definitely smooching up to them, going, hey,
yeah.
I actually have some of this money. Instead of having to go out and kill a whole bunch of people, you can earn 500 gold just telling me something. That's probably going to, an orc mercenary is just going to go, yeah, actually, that works. Like, explaining things to stupid people is one way to really convince stupid people to do things for you.
Yeah, but again, I guess it all drags back to the fact that for the most part just see them as information and item dispensers.
Yeah, which is a big problem. Okay, so then I guess there's just to do with a lot of talking to people and the consequences of your actions. In some games, like the Bethesda games, the Bethesda open world games, you have some consequences of your actions.
Yeah, there is.
But they never ruin your game.
No.
Apart from being a vampire in Oblivion. But that's horrible, by the way. But, I mean, becoming a vampire in a 3.5 or a friggin' Pathfinder campaign will be crippling as well.
It kind of is and isn't, because you're very powerful, you just...
If you're in a normal party, you're going to be screwed, dude.
Yeah.
I loved being alive.
Well, you have to convince someone to basically lug your coffin around.
Yeah. Anyway, so pretty much you got to think about all the consequences you have with your social interactions, the missions you're taking. And I remember a campaign world that I have called Angorn, which is based on the 7 deadly sins. I really tried to focus on your consequences of your actions by literally tattooing you. Like, you're greedy, you get a tattoo in your hand saying you're greedy. Like, the gods put it there in your sleep. And people, all of a sudden in those campaigns, never sinned. Not when they would have normally. Like, people really thought, hey, you know, actually just killing someone for their gold, I will give you a mark of greed. It's like, wait. Mercenaries do that all the time, Tom. Well, yeah, they're greedy.
Yeah. Of course
Killing for money is greedy. And it's like, oh, well, I don't want to do that. It's like, why not? What's wrong with being greedy? It's like, oh, that's a sin. It's just like...
You do it in every other game.
You do it in every other game. You do it in real life.
Yeah, it becomes one of those things when, like, the sins and virtues become mandatory and they become global for everyone to see, so that everyone starts to care.
Exactly. But I made the world so not everyone cared because I made some of the sinful gods good.
Yeah.
But that's
something else. Again, it was no black and white. It was just these areas of grey where each thing could be like. Again, one of the nicest guys we met in that world had a huge mark of laziness.
Yeah, Marcus Sloth.
He was a cool guy.
He was nice.
Yeah, he was really nice. Threw parties, let us hang out even though we were outlaws.
And yet in Skyrim, I could go around fucking pickpocketing everyone and not give a shit.
And if I get caught, I just reload, or
I just autosave before I do it.
Or I'll just fight all these guards off because I'm invincible and like. I feel like I feel like the consequences aren't really consequences so much.
No, they're not. Like, you got to think about what the view of the world of you would be. Imagine the Skyrim character you played. You know, like, let's say you did 100% playthrough. What kind of guy is he?
Fucking barbarian. Like, I've murdered so many people.
Yeah. I have killed half of Skyrim. What did you do with your life? I am Dragonborn.
Dovahkiin, genocider.
Killer of men.
Yeah, genocide born.
Another thing about, you can't save your game in role-playing games.
No, you cannot. The take-backsies.
Take-backsies.
Yeah,
take-backsies
I mean,
real.
we can laugh at this because we're all guilty of doing stuff like this. I mean, like...
Oh, not as bad as that kind of stuff. Like, I try to limit... Like, every single time I say something to an NPC, I'd say I'm pretty good at it. Like,
no, you're definitely...
While I've had characters say dumb things, but that's the whole point of the character. Yao the young dragon.
Well, I mean, like, you and I have both made mistakes. Like, we've had our times, like, you, when you flew out the helicopter and got sort of smacked around.
I didn't get a take-backsy on that.
Yeah, that's the thing. But, like, all of us have had, like, we can laugh because we know how absurd it is looking back now because we've come forward and we've learned.
Like, how absurd... I guess wrong we used to play... Wrong. I put that in quotations.
I wouldn't call it wrong, it was just a different way of playing.
Different way of playing, exactly. Wrong from how we see it now, because we try to get roleplay out of our games now. At least I'm trying to force it as a DM. I prefer it.
Yeah, you know what I am.
Exactly. You play a freeform roleplay. You are a role player. I'm surprised we haven't LARPed yet.
Oh yeah.
Maybe. Shutter on LARP. Guys, I got the Nova Coke.
Nerf darts everywhere.
Yeah. A big one that pulls people out is the combat map. Dun dun.
Yeah, that's another one where they see the map as squares or whatever shape you use instead of seeing an environment.
And I guess the combat map is there so the DM knows what the fuck is going on. The players know what the fuck is going on.
It's basically just to track the position of where everything is.
It is, and it's also to show the size of the room more, because when I'm saying it's 20 feet long, 20 feet high, and because we use the metric and not the imperial system, it gets a bit confusing about how big the room is. And yeah, it's just I guess the combat map's needed, and I still even draw up combats, not on combat maps, but for Shadowrun, I just draw like little dots,
and
draw the thing, say this is where you guys are roughly, it's roughly this long.
It's essentially a house plan at some points.
Yeah,
a really rough house plan.
Yeah, like that's basically what it is. You have to do that. And I mean, new players, well, you had a story, what was it, with the circular room?
Yes, basically, I read this because I do a lot of reading online, so I've heard a lot of horror stories and said a lot of things. Some of them untrue, probably most of them, let's face it. But it was a story of basically they were in this sort of cylindrical sort of walkway, and they get attacked. And of course, because it's a grid, and of course you use it's only in squares, so you can measure the distance in like 5 foot or in meters. It couldn't be a perfect circle; it had to be done with squares, so it was a square circle. And while all the players in the group who were experienced, who had been there playing for a long time, they all saw the room as the cylindric sort of circle hallway. The one player who was new was like, I hide in the corner, and they all looked at them weird, like, there's no corners, it's a perfect cylinder, there are no corners. And they didn't realize what they meant. They spent a lot of time arguing, being really confused, until the person moved their mini into the corner, and then they were like, oh, because they didn't realize, because again, what they were seeing as role players was the perfect cylinder. What they were seeing as a player was just what was there in front of them, and that's where problems can kind of arise.
Like, I still have trouble where, like, when you're in a more chaotic environment, such as the wilderness, where things can't be perfectly aligned like a dungeon, where things are partially covered, like a square is partially taken up by, say, the side of a tree, and all that. I'm like, but the square might be taken up. Will I have room to fit in that? And
well, think about it. It's a 5-foot square. Think about how big 5-foot square is. Fairly big. Think about how much room you have to stand there. Even if one part of the 5-foot square is taken up, you have enough room.
Yeah.
Really, if you saw a D&D combat set out, it would look weird how far away people are from each other. Because it's actually really far away.
Yeah.
But it's the only way to do it. Like 5 feet, because 5 feet. Because it's easy to count.
And honestly, I'm the sort of person who can't measure.
Yeah, 5 feet's like that.
It's over a meter.
Yeah.
Almost a meter and a half.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I'm the sort of person.
A big square.
When people say like the room's like 20 feet wide, I'm like, I don't really know how wide that is because I've never been very good with distance. So the only reference I have is how far does my gun shoot, or how far does my bow shoot, or where can I hit with my sword, and that's how I get my sense of distance.
Yeah, but you don't really play with combat maps that much more anymore, do you? Because you do a lot of freeform now.
I do a lot of freeform, and there's not a lot of that, but they're like he still uses distance a couple of times, but I'm more just like I have to just kind of ask like how close he is in reference to me, like if I were to swing, like would he be? Because that's just, I think you could tell, like, if you had used the sword for a while, you'd be able to tell what the sword's length is. Well, but it's a lot of. But dealing with like battle maps and grids, before the battle maps and grids actually come in, I usually have no idea of how big the room is. I have no clue. I just can't. It's a really weird thing. I've always been really terrible with distance and height and stuff, and it's just, and I feel so bad and I feel so dunce because of it. But once it all starts, it's like, okay, it's this big, this wide. It's fine.
Alrighty, so now we're going to be talking about, for our final thing, I guess this really wraps it all up. Yeah. Dominant strategy theory.
I feel like maybe we should have talked about this first, but essentially what it is it is the most effective method of disposing of obstacles.
Yep.
In a nutshell.
So things like min-maxing,
using the same things over and over again because they worked the last time, because it was the most effective way of doing it and the most efficient way of doing it.
Yep.
Overusing strategies, yeah.
We did it a lot in Shadowrun when we first began. The mage makes the combat monster invisible and he travels with the face, and the face talks his way into the building to get what we need to do, or the hacker is invisible and walking with the face.
The hacker, track how they do. I guess as a DM, you need to break up missions so one strategy doesn't always work, but sometimes like dominant strategy means it's the one that they last did, so it's in their mind, so they try to do the same thing.
Well, it's usually when it works so well that they just keep doing it, and there needs to be a point where you just sort of step it up in order to, because it gets boring as a DM, and as a player, not necessarily because you're completing missions and you're feeling really cool about finding this loophole in the system, but you just need to change it up so that those theories can't exist for too long. And you do see it in all players, and I think it does sort of fit though under the sort of syndrome, because you see it being used a lot in everything that they do. It feels under the sort of min-maxing sort of power gaming section of everything they do. They have to hit the best weapons, whether it be great swords or predators. You could name a few others, sniper rifles even in Shadowrun.
Oh yeah. And what does this have to do with video games? That's literally what it's about.
Yeah.
A metagame in a video game. Look at Dota. Why aren't you doing this way? This is how pro did it. Do it or you lose game. Bad.
Or just look at MMOs with PvP.
Yep.
Why aren't you doing this? It has the most damage. It has this has the most armor. It is the most cost-effective and effective thing for its thing. It has a better fire rate.
You should have plus 12 gold mega armor that you kill from Galagron, the Great Hawk Lord.
I tap 5 mana and play Voltron.
Yeah, Magic the Gathering is all that game is about, is finding the dominant strategy.
Yeah.
It's about metagaming. It's about knowing what is the best cards. It's about having the best cards. It's about using the best cards in the most effective way. You shouldn't play that turn on your turn. You should do it on the end of my turn. You should play creatures post-combat, not pre-combat, unless the creature has an effect on the combat. But maybe you should bluff, and sometimes you shouldn't bluff.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's
okay. But yeah, and that's relevant to gaming because again, it's what we get taught in almost every RPG where it's like, it doesn't, who cares if you look silly or dumb? It's the most effective thing. It's the dominant strategy.
Why shouldn't you do it in roleplay? Because you're people. And people have emotions and they don't want to do the same thing over and over again. And maybe your character, okay, say you did a mission where you fought elves, right? Mm-hmm. You know, blah, 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 it went down all right and you had this cool strategy to raid the elf camp. Now, you're facing orcs. Your character hates orcs. Your last one was integrating into them and disguising. You hate orcs. You're not going to do that. You're going to run in and pummel face straight away. Yeah. You're going to rip off your clothes and go crazy. Okay, that's.
I think the other thing is that you end up with a lot of characters that feel the same because you just keep doing the same thing and you don't really try anything different. I mean, we see a lot of we do it sometimes with Shadowrun where there are just pistols you just take because there's no sort of reason to take anything else. Yeah. I have taken other pistols and sort of decked them out because I like to add some sort of flavor with my favorite choices of guns, and for a long time I didn't actually use the Ares Predator. I was using a Browning High Power that I customized because I like the Browning, and that's just it.
I used a Ruger Super Hawk.
Yeah, I know, but
gun's great.
It's just like it's bad for roleplay because again, you just end up with like all these characters that are just kind of the same that feel very sort of wishy-washy and. It means a lot of what you are is your character's vain and only interested in what gives him an advantage. And usually when you have people who are so focused on these statistics that they don't focus on anything else. Yeah. That their characters are just fully obsessed with having the next best thing, but they don't have a life outside of it.
Anything on dominant strategy, Bloy?
Great swords.
Yep. Alrighty. 2d6 damage the best.
Don't take any other sword but the greatsword if you can.
Pathfinder, that is.
Are you a rogue? Why aren't you using a greatsword? But that's dumb. How can you sneak with a greatsword? You can because the system allows it.
Alright, so I guess let's just go around the table. What are the number one way you think to stop video gaming syndrome? I'm going to start because I said so.
Yeah. You're the king boss.
King boss. I'm king boss, man.
King boss.
Alright, so think like your character. Make a character that has a mind that isn't yours, for one, and then think like them. Maybe put some flaws and stuff like that. Make it simple at first. Be yourself, but you have a flaw where you have to pick your nose when you see the sun. I don't know. Okay, that's stupid, but that is what a flaw you could have.
I develop whooping cough whenever I see the moon rise.
Anyway, so think like your character, and all of these problems will disappear. Most of them. I mean, some of them won't. But, yeah.
I'll go next. Being a person who's done a lot of freeform roleplay, I feel that the best thing you can do for yourself is when you approach these games, maybe have a look at what you can do, but stop there and don't go further with developing your character. Sit down and think about, if you're writing a novel, what sort of character you might want to be. Like, what sort of person you would want to be in a story, and then start thinking about how that person feels about things, their family, their relations, because that helps you get more into character. And I know that some people can be really put off, especially when they're new, so not wanting to roleplay.
Make a good backstory is what you're saying.
Basically, make a good backstory, one that you can get yourself immersed in and get excited about, and then build the character. It might always be perfect because your first characters, especially when you start, which is usually when this video gaming syndrome hits in, will be terrible, but everyone's like that. Yeah. And also, don't be afraid to roleplay. It is really embarrassing the first few times, especially if you're with some people who are more experienced, because you don't really understand what's going on.
Hey,
maybe you've
experienced people are the best to be with.
They can be if they're supportive. Some people
unless they're power gamers.
Unless they're role-playing a dick, and then of course it's a problem. And some people I know have probably watched some things and are like, I'm going to be awesome like these people were in this play-by-play I watched. You can try and do that, but don't be really disappointed when it fails, because failure is a part of this game. It's not the be-all, end-all like it is in video games where like, oh, I failed, I have to do it all over again. No, it's just it's another hurdle you get over. And you should never be afraid of that in in tabletopping, even in video games. Like, in video games, I guess it's because you have to spend more of your time going back and backtracking. But with this, it's all part of the experience, and you shouldn't be afraid of it.
Right.
Blue, what do you think?
Learn the universes you're going in.
That's good.
Yeah, like in Shadowrun, you got to realize that if you're going to go into a club and shoot it up in downtown, you've got about 3 minutes to get out of there.
1d6
1d6 minutes, actually.
Yeah, 1d6
We know
minutes.
this way too well.
So,
Not to mention if there are just local cops in the area.
yeah, so worst
That's
case...
a high threat response team is 1d6 fucking minutes.
Yeah, so worst case scenario, you've got 1 minute to get out of there before your asses are fucking in the
Before they bring the choppers with the snipers.
Yeah.
And they're not playing they're fucking not playing softball.
Yeah. Learn that you're a part of the universe and you're not the universe.
Yeah, the universe does not revolve around you, that you are just a small part of it.
That's way more prominent in Shadowrun. I guess it is in D&D, but I don't know. I guess a lot of our earlier D&D campaigns, we weren't playing in a world, we were playing in Fantasyland number 5.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
again, there's nothing wrong with that when you first start.
Yeah.
And again, like what you said, it may seem really kind of depressing if you were just like, you're not, the universe doesn't revolve around you, you're but a small part of the universe. But in some ways, it's more exciting, I feel, to then be able to be that small part and to see how you can affect it, because you can affect it in such ways, and it's profound in the sort of senses of the connections you can make, and how your choices actually carry a lot more consequence than they would in a game. Because in a game, usually it's boiled down to a couple of choices that usually have the same sort of endings.
Yeah. So, as a final note, also, DMs. Hi, I'm a DM too.
Yeah.
It's your job to make it not like a video game. You run like a video game, it plays like a video game. If you make it not run like a video game, you push people to make characters that are interesting, and you play those off. Don't just run missions that are strictly about how they're going to kill the dragon. Maybe someone has a backstory where an orc tribe killed their family. Make them versus the orc tribe, you know?
Yeah. I want to add on to that just quickly.
Yep.
I mean, this may be a bit heavy-handed, but I feel like a really good way is that if you're especially worried about party cohesion, or if some people are perhaps worried about roleplay, a really good way to sort of promote that is to help tie is to have your players have a previous association and connection to at least one other player in the game.
Yeah, super helps with that, yeah.
It helps to tie in the past and to build fuller characters. And you'll find that these people will end up relying, and you won't have such problems as when you show up and everyone's playing a brooding hero and no one wants to work together, because when everyone has to have at least one connection to the other people in the group, then it becomes a lot easier because they've worked with them before and they know them, and it's less likely to break up horribly. It also helps to create more drama and tension between them through their shared histories.
Yeah.
But hey, we like to play roleplay. If you want to play it like a video game, go ahead.
Yeah, like if that's what you and your group want to do.
We've done it before. We've gone like, you know what? Let's do a campaign. Literally, it's you go from door to door and you fight monsters that I roll up on like a massive table from the DM guide.
Yeah.
Literally did that once. All I did is we had the actual DM guide, and I just flicked through the book randomly.
Dire Weasel.
Boom, and they versed it.
Yeah, we fought a Dire Weasel. We fought a White Dragon as well.
Oh.
White Dragon, Dire Weasel. I think in Aboleth, like they were like high level characters anyway.
Yeah.
I think I made them level 6. They made level 6 characters, and
We
I
all
flicked
ate
through the
that
book
time, I
and
believe.
I've done this multiple times. It's just something. Hey, that's actually a cool game you can play. You can sit down with your friends, take out some level 8, level 6 characters, thumb through the book as a DM, and make them fight monsters.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Just grab some munchies, everyone sits around. I mean, hell, it's not even that bad if you're just drinking, because I know a lot of people tend to...
You could get so
you could, but that's a way. Like, it doesn't always have to be really serious, which is why usually when we want to play really serious stuff, we usually stay on Shadowrun, because Shadowrun's usually doesn't have a lot of wiggle room for kind of being silly. There are some places where you can go and do that, but usually I find that when we as a group want to do something silly, we usually default towards something like Pathfinder and these sort of fantasy systems, because then you can really just have these sort of dumb, stupid, like, we're adventurers and we're going to go adventuring and beat the crap out of shit and steal their goods.
All right, any closing statements, boys?
No, I think we've rambled long enough and gone perhaps a bit too off topic with some of our love of roleplay.
I hope you enjoyed it, though.
Yeah, but again, we just really want to just preference that if you play this way, your way of fun is not wrong. And that's what I think this...
My way's better than yours.
Yeah.
You're having fun wrong.
Yeah, because that's...
Dickhead!
You'd actually be surprised. That's what really infuriates me. There's a lot of people who are really sort of not inflexible when it comes to what they perceive to be as fun and the right way of having fun. and I have dealt with. I've actually dealt with some people.
We've
before.
been on the internet before, Hobo.
We've been on the internet before.
I've read the YouTube comments
A
before.
bunch of fun haters.
Bunch of retards. Sorry, guys.
Here comes the fun police. But yeah, no way of fun I'd say in this is having is wrong. But you just have to understand what sort of fun the group you're with is, and if maybe if you don't want to have the same sort of fun as, maybe it's time to find a new group. I know that's always difficult and it's hard to find, but
Hey, everyone who's ever played roleplay cycles through groups or cycles through people in groups. It's just the way it is.
Come play
some
with
don't
us.
though, because like some don't some don't really have a lot of trust and they feel really trapped in and like.
Yeah, no, that's true.
but
I mean,
there are always options. I mean, you might not necessarily like some of the options. Some of it, especially if you're in remote communities, you do have to go online, and that can be kind of a bummer because people drop out all the time.
I had to go online sometimes too. You know. Anyway,
There's nothing wrong with that.
yeah, that's our episode on video gaming syndrome. If you guys have any ideas on future episodes that you'd like us to explore, chuck it in the comments below. Like I said in the previous ones, we are looking to doing a 5th edition campaign that we're going to be doing on camera. So can't wait for that. Whenever that'll happen, when we get the time.
Fifth edition Shadowrun.
D&D and Shadowrun.
Perhaps
We're actually going to be doing both. Yeah.
We might be doing both now.
Yeah.
I want to personally do both, but again, if we've missed anything that you think is really important, because again, this was a lot of things to cover, and they all did kind of tie in together, and we may have rambled a bit, but I'm sure you guys liked a bit of that. But if you think we missed anything, or you have a different idea of what you think video gaming syndrome is, leave us a comment, leave us that feedback. We would love to hear about it. And again, maybe if we get enough, and if we've missed enough, we'll be able to go back and talk about this in later episodes.
Well, I feel that we went off topic in terms of we talked about role-play more, but I mean, whatever.
we're role players. It was inevitable.
If you haven't checked it out already, check out our first episode, Metagaming.
Well, the previous episodes.
And our previous episodes in general. Yeah, metagaming actually was a lot of topics that we hear already.
It was a very short episode, and the audio quality wasn't as great, but
Well, you have a full-time editor now.
yeah.
Anyway, see you guys later. My name is Master Blurg.
I am the illustrious hobo.
I'm your town simpleton, Bluey Bloodnut.
Blue blood now.
Blue blood.